The list of people who told him to get rid of the dog before the baby came was longer than most people's Christmas card list. What none of them saw coming was the night that dog saved the baby's life. Thomas and Bridget Halverson had owned Coda for 4 years before their daughter arrived. Coda was a Rottweiler, 95 pounds, black and tan, with a broad head that made strangers cross the street and a personality that made their closest friends call him the world's largest lapdog. He was gentle in the way that very large, very powerful animals sometimes choose to be. He sat beside the elderly woman next door when she gardened. He let neighborhood children climb on him. He had never shown a single incident of aggression in 4 years. None of that mattered to anyone when Bridget's pregnancy was announced. The trainer they'd used said it plainly at the 6-month mark. "I'd recommend rehoming him. Rottweilers and newborns are a liability." Their pediatrician mentioned it at the 3rd trimester visit. Tomas's mother said it every time she called. The neighborhood once watched Coda babysit her 3-year-old said, "I know he seems fine, but you can't know. You can't really know." What no one said at any point was, "But look at what he does." Bridget watched Coda the way she always had, closely, without agenda. She saw a dog who had begun spending time near the baby's room months before their daughter was born, who lay outside the nursery door while she assembled the crib, who, when Anya came home from the hospital at 4 days old, approached her with a stillness that belonged to an older animal, a pause, an assessment, a breath, and then retreated to his spot by the window. She called him safe. They kept him. What nobody was prepared for was what Coda was like with Anya when she cried. He did not agitate. He did not escalate. He sat. He waited. He positioned himself between the crib and the door with a consistency that began to look less like proximity and more like a post. Every night, without being placed there, without training for it, Coda arranged himself at the entrance to Anya's room. 3 months after she came home, Tomas went to the kitchen at 11:45 p.m. for a glass of water. He heard Coda before he saw him, a low, sustained sound that was not quite a bark and not quite a whine. Something below both. He found the dog at the nursery door. Not scratching, not agitated, standing very still in the way that had become familiar, except his nose was at the gap under the door and he was pressing hard against the wood with his shoulder. Thomas opened the door. The smell hit him before anything else. Not smoke, something electrical. The faint, wrong smell of heat inside plastic. He turned on the light. The baby monitor charging on the shelf behind the crib had its cable bending sharply against the wall, a black scorch mark beginning where the insulation had started to melt. No visible flame. But the wall behind it was warm. He unplugged it and had Bridget and Anya out of the room inside 90 seconds. The fire department confirmed what the scorch mark had already told them. The cable had been beginning to arc. Another 20 to 30 minutes, the inspector said, and the wall insulation would have caught. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Dogs detect thermal shifts and early electrical burning at chemical compound concentrations that human olfactory systems cannot register. The byproducts of insulation beginning to degrade release volatile compounds, acrolein, formaldehyde, acetone derivatives, that a dog smells long before any smoke detector triggers. Coda had been standing outside a door that smelled like something was wrong. The inspector said, "You were lucky." Bridget looked at Coda, who was standing beside Anya's bouncy chair in the living room, his wide face perfectly calm, and said, "We weren't lucky. We paid attention." Has your dog ever done something that nobody around you understood until it was too late to doubt him? Drop your story in the comments. These stories change minds. Coda lived with Anya until she was 6 years old. In every photograph from those years, he is in the background of the shot, just outside the frame, just at the edge of the door, always positioned between her and wherever the door was. Thomas kept one of those photos on his desk. Every guardian deserves to be seen, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. In the photo, Anya is laughing, reaching toward the camera with both hands. Coda is behind her, his enormous dark face turned slightly toward the window, watching something outside that no one else can see. He still looks like he's on duty. He always was. Next time, a German shepherd who positioned himself between a toddler and a staircase every single night for 2 weeks, until the parents finally understood why. The fire department inspector walked them through the specifics before he left. The cable fault on the baby monitor charger had been caused by a sharp bend in the cord that had, over weeks of use, created a stress fracture in the insulation. The arc had not yet produced an open flame, but the wall material behind the shelf was beginning to absorb heat in the way that leads, within a predictable window of time, to ignition. Electrical fires of this type, he said, are among the most common in homes with infants. Charging cables in small enclosed spaces, devices left plugged in overnight. The heat builds slowly. The failure is quiet. Most smoke detectors do not alarm until the fire is already established. Dogs detect the VOC signature of insulation beginning to degrade. Cacroline benzene derivatives, formaldehyde, the first compounds released as plastic overheats, are detectable to a canine olfactory system at concentrations far below any mechanical threshold. Coda had been at the nursery door that night because the room smelled like something was wrong. He had the choice to act in it. Bridget thought about that for a long time afterward. The list of people who had told them to remove the dog before the baby arrived had been built on a premise that the dog was the risk, that the danger in the house was on 4 legs. The danger in the house had been in the wall. The safety in the house had been on 4 legs. She did not call any of those people back to tell them this. She did not need to. She just let Coda keep his position at the nursery door.